So this is Leaders Coven. And Leaders Coven is a community for leaders. It's a community for those who make things happen. It's a community for change agents in the society. It's a community for those who are intentional, who wants to make something out of their life, who wants to make impact, who wants to leave a dent on the universe. And I've always had this belief that, even if I left university, that what if we gather as leaders, or let me say as intentional people, and we just have conversations. We just, rub minds together. What are the things that can come out of that? Brilliant ideas, the solutions to problems, creative thinking, and even bigger impact, because we can have conversations, we can collaborate together, we can do things together. So I always had this drive in my mind. And last year, that was October last year, I feel like, let's just start something. My idea has always been physical. I love physical. I love having a physical meetup. I love physical because beyond just talking, you get to meet people. You get to have relationships, real relationships that you can count on. But the truth is that it was not feasible. And I felt, why not just start something? Let's just start something. Let's just start talking, right? And this is just talking. It's not a big deal, as it were. We just come here to talk. We come here to rub minds together. We come here to deliberate. So we initially started with, teaching and question and answers, but we felt like, no, I think we can do better than that. We can just come together and have open hours, and everybody gets to share their thoughts while one or two people lead the conversation. And that's what we started since November. February this year, we started a relationship. We invited Camille. He talked a lot about relationship. I think most of our recorded series are on my YouTube page. You can always catch up on them if you want to, but you'll always be blessed going through those videos. So, that's the summary of Leaders Coven. We are trying to build leaders for the next generation, and we are the leaders for the next generation. And practically in key three areas: character, excellence, and I've forgotten the last thing now. Character, excellence, and one other thing. Forgive me. And why is character important? Character is important because one of the key things we lack in our society today is leaders with character. Leaders that you can count on. Leaders that you can believe them and they will make everything happen. Yes, I think the last one is confidence. Courage, yes. So courage, why is courage important? I feel we have good leaders with character. But the challenging thing is that those that have character don't have courage. So they're asking who wants to be the class rep. You are good, you are excellent, but you don't raise your hand. Why? Because you lack courage. And they used to say that those who have courage will always defeat those who have all the traits in his zone. Like Miles Murray used to say, that a lion is not the biggest animal in the jungle. It's not the fastest. A lion is not anything in the jungle. But when the lion shows up, every other animal bows. Why? Because of courage. He just believes that he can do it. And because of that, he's the king of the jungle. So, the courageous is the king. So that's the second thing that we emphasize in this community. And the third thing we emphasize in this community is excellence. The truth is that there is no way we can scale and become global leaders if there is no excellence in everything we do. So those are the key values that we are strong on: character, courage, and excellence. So that's the summary of Leaders Coven. We are still growing. We are doing our monthly webinars, monthly meetings like this. And maybe next year we are trusting that we can start physical meetup. I don't know how that will go yet, but that's the summary of it all. So today, every other person, you're welcome. We have more people join us. Thank you for coming today. It's good to have you, Temi, Josh, Mary. Yeah, thank you for coming. So today we'll be talking about the politics of influence, how to drive sustainable societal changes, and why do we need to have this conversation? We need to have this conversation because our world today is driving more towards those who have the power. So, over 40 children have been kidnapped in Ogumosho, and nothing has been done about it. Nothing significant has been done about it. Why? Because those who control Nigeria are those in power. So we can have all the followers in this world. We can be the most popular person on social media. But when the push comes to shove, is those with political influence and power that changes the narrative. And that's why we need to talk about politics. I mean, not everybody will be the president of Nigeria. I don't know whether that's Dennis's ambition. I don't know. Maybe he wants to be president one day. I know Fabiyi will want to be the governor. I don't know. Maybe Blessing also wants to be senator or minister. I don't know. But I surely know that we all can be influential. We all can be people that are respected in our country. I mean, there are people in the world today that even though they are not in any political office, when they speak, leaders of nations listen. In fact, they listen twice. And so what makes these people who they are? And how can we also build that level of influence? And today we have on our call the only Fabiyi Fadaka, right? I mean, he's my political analyst. I'm not very vast with what is happening across Nigeria, but he's my man. He knows everything. He knows he's back to back on everything happening in Nigeria. He's a political person himself, serving many political roles, and he's vast in this area of knowledge. And today we'll be having quite interesting conversation, which every other person will also be participating in as much as you love. So these are plans, these are strategy. I'll be leading the conversation with Damilare. And at any point in time when you want to say anything, so as just to control the meeting, just raise your hand and I will call on you to also add your thoughts. So it's a meeting for everybody to talk and you are free to contribute. And at every point in time, I can also direct the question to everybody on the call. So feel free to talk. The courageous are the leaders, and we are all leaders on this call. So take the courage to share your thoughts as well. So, Damilare, you're welcome once again. We are glad to have you. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll just ask you to tell us a little bit about who you are. I know I've talked a little bit, but I mean, you do better justice to letting us know who you are. Maybe some of us will be meeting you for the first time. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Then we'll dive right into the conversation for tonight.
Yeah, okay. And thank you very much, Oluwadamilare. Thank you for bringing me to the community and then to meet other leaders to rub our minds together today. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm Oluwadamilare Fabiyi, as Bolu has introduced. And well, for my work, I work as a management consultant in CEDA. And then for my personal portfolio and what I do, I'm also a political analyst. I follow political discussions around, and then I'm very intentional about strategic development of countries, particularly Nigeria and Africa, where we have a deficit of good governance. So basically, I'm a political analyst, I'm a management consultant, and I've served in various leadership and administrative positions in the past. And then my goal is really to redefine what good governance is and then to redefine what leadership can be, both in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you. Yeah, Bolu, you are muted. If you are speaking, you are muted.
Yes, apologies. I said powerful man with powerful bio. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. So let's just go straight right into it. What we are trying to do today is how can we influence government for positive changes in the society? How can everybody on this call influence government? You know, government is very powerful. I believe government is the strongest and the most powerful force on the earth. You know, businesses can be powerful. We have billionaires in this world. We have a lot of people, but government seems as the most powerful because they can make the richest man in the world today poor tomorrow. That's how powerful government is. My first question tonight is this. Like I was saying the other time, not every one of us will hold a political office, and not every one of us will contest for any position like that, as it were. But, you know, like I was saying the other time, there are people in the world today, and in Nigeria particularly, that when they speak, the government of Nigeria listens. Who are these kind of people, and what makes them so influential, in your own opinion, Damilare?
Okay, yeah, thank you. What people that the government listen to, and then what makes them influential, if I get you correctly. So
Absolutely.
So the thing is, governments of all countries of the world, they look at different things that make them listen to people, and then they consider different factors. And then it could be their own selfish interest that those people have electoral powers, which is something that all of us basically have. At least most, if all Nigerians come out to speak something to the government, because we have the electoral power to elect them or to remove them, whether or not we are conscious of that particular power, it's something that they are conscious of, and it's something that they will consider. And also something around economic power. As much as political power looks like it's superior to what economic power is or what business they are controlling, government also tends to listen to what the controllers of the economy of the country are saying. For example, someone like Dangote in Nigeria today controls so much of Nigeria's economy, like so much. He's the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria. He controls so much. And if something happens to Dangote today in Nigeria, or if Dangote moves a particular needle in his business, for example, imagine Dangote refinery increasing their fuel price by 200 naira tomorrow. You can imagine the impact it will have on Nigeria economy and the government perception on the people. So when people like Dangote speak, there's a level of respect and a level of consideration that the government gives them because of the economic power that they hold. There are also people that hold power like institutional power, and this could be religious institutions, it could be some other institutions. When you look at things that have been happening in Nigeria, for example, there's a popular Islamic cleric in Nigeria, who I don't want to mention the name because of the sensitivity, who is known and popular for advocating, or should I say, defending terrorists. And then he's still there working free. In fact, he went to Saudi Arabia and then he was deported by the government of Saudi Arabia. But there's the kind of immunity that he has in Nigeria. Surprisingly, he has that immunity because, will I say that he with a level of religious power that the government do not want their political interests to be subdued on. So they leave him to roam around freely. And there are also some other things around social clout that people respect, that government respect. When you see, there was this thing that happened in the past few months that is still happening now. You see some guys saying they're forming this thing for Tinubu's campaign, they're forming City Boys movements. So as ridiculous as that sounds and as it looks, there's a level of social clout that those people have that translates to political power that those politicians actually respect, and to a large extent can influence what decision they are making, and then can influence how they react to things. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. I want to say again that if anyone has anything to add, just raise your hand at any point. I will call on you. So you mentioned 3 things: economic power, institutional power, and social clout. Right. So I believe that not all of us has the economic power yet. Not all of us has the institutional power yet. But I see something very,
I think we missed electoral power, which was the first one.
Okay, electoral power. Okay, it's different from institutional power.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I see something that is a low-hanging fruit. I think the low-hanging fruit, if I'm correct, is social clout. I think it's easy to build social influence these days. So let's just double-click on that. Do you mean that every person with 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, qualifies to influence the government? And if not, what actually defines power in social media?
Okay, so if I'm going to break the question down, there's the part of qualification to influence, and then what defines power in the realm of social media. So the thing about qualification is influence does not even require qualification. Influence can be used in a positive way or in a negative way. Because the first step is, do you actually even have influence? So the qualification to use influence will now depend on, do we base this on their level to, or their responsibility to use this influence in a positive direction or not? For example, if someone has 5 million followers on Instagram, as you have earlier exemplified, and then the person leads protest against insecurity in Nigeria, that's a positive use of social media in this context, what we are speaking about. But for example, if someone has that same level of clout on social media, and the person is more of spreading what we can see as social vices and promoting cultism, promoting insecurity-related activities, that's also influence. It's also influence, because influence is basically me having a power to make someone else make a decision. That's what influence is. So even if your circle of influence is your roommates, even if it's your housemates, even if it's your 10 followers that you have on social media, it's still a level of influence. But the qualification is now the ability of that person to use it for what are the right metrics of social development that we are seeing, which is what we can now base as the qualification. And then what do we say power is in this realm of social media? I would say power is basically your ability to use influence. There are people that have influence, but they don't know how to use it. Which was why I try to make influence very separate from power. Influence is basically, can I make someone make this particular decision? And power is now, how do I use this influence to make this person make that particular decision? And then the usage of influence can be negative or positive, as I've said earlier, and it could be even illegal. Funny enough, it could be legal because you just have that influence. For example, if the president of Nigeria has an influence on the chairman of INEC, for example, because he appointed him, he controls him to make decisions, and then he uses that power or that influence to now exercise a power on him to influence elections in the direction. He has used influence and he has used power, but it's not positive. Yeah, let me just stop there.
Interesting debate. So I was listening some days ago to someone, and the person said that the power of influence is greater than the influence of power. Think about it for a second. The power of influence is greater than the influence of power. True or false?
Okay, if I'm going to deliberate on this or try to break this down, so I would say the power of influence and the influence of power. So if I'm going to make it simpler, the influence of power is basically I have power and power is making me do this. That's the influence of power on me. And the power of influence is I have influence and I use my influence to achieve this.
Yeah.
So the influence of power, I'll say the influence of power is more of, it can easily make you make negative decisions.
Okay.
So it can be easily seen in the negative sense of it. Because maybe because I'm the president of Nigeria and I have the power to do some things.
Yeah.
So because I have that power, I get influence to make some things that are negative. That's basically the influence of power. But the power of influence is, I'm not even the president of Nigeria in this situation. I'm just somebody that people roll with. Let me say I'm Peter Obi and I have influence. But I can easily make 6 million people vote for me, even if I don't have any power. That is now the power of influence. So which one would I say is the most powerful? I would say there's one that gives legitimacy, and there's one that it gives you ability to do things. What gives you legitimacy is really the power of influence. It's because I have this power to make 6 million Nigerians vote for me in an election.
Yeah.
That's the power of the influence that I have. But the influence of power is because I'm the president of Nigeria, I can do all I have to do to ensure that I win my election again, even if Nigerians don't want to.
Yeah.
That's the influence of power. So
Well, they used to say that power intoxicates.
Yeah.
By the time you build a level of power, sometimes you think to yourself, does the opinion count? Just get the thing done, right? And that can build resentment. A lot of leaders don't pay attention to the fact that even though you are very powerful, you have the executive order to ban Nigeria from coming to the US for the next 6 months. I mean, what kind of leader do you become at the end of the day? If you are particular about your reputation, particular about how people see you, what kind of leader do you become? If because of your political power, not just political power now, let even say you have authority, whether in this corporate space or in the politics, and you can make decision and your decision is final. My question is that, do you try to get the opinion of people or do you make the decision? So think it's a question to even before we move to the next question. I want to break it down a little bit. They used to say there are wartime leaders and there are peacetime leaders. So wartime leaders are like this guy in the UK. What's his name again? Winston Churchill. During the World War II, that led UK through the World War II, and he was able to make drastic decisions. Partner with several countries to defeat this Hitler of a guy. And there are peacetime leaders that thrive when everything is calm. There is no war. It's like Solomon, right? They can strategize, marriage alliances. You understand? Big conglomerates. And these set of leaders use unique strategies for their own approaches, right? So, wartime, most of the time, because they have short time thinking to execution gap, they want to make decision on the spot. Peacetime, because people have time to think about their president and the decision their president is making. They have all the time. There is no trouble going on around. They question a lot of things. They drag the leader a lot. So how do we harmonize between influence of power and the power of influence? When does a leader use the influence of power? And when does a leader use the power of influence? Do you mind to talk about that a little bit?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I said something earlier. I said the power of influence gives legitimacy, and then the influence of power sometimes can make you make bad decisions. So where I would like to start this from is, I like the example that you give, but I don't want to talk on that because I'll be biased. So let me just start from this perspective now. Is, for example, there are some decisions that leaders have to make, and I have to pick my words carefully in this particular line, that they necessarily might not take what people want. Might not be what people popularly claim they want or popularly advocate for, but that might be the best interest of those people at that particular point in time. I think the very first foundation that we need to understand is if people elect you or appoint you or choose you to become their leader, it's because, number one, they trust you. They trust you to act on their behalf. They trust you to make decisions on their behalf. That's the first thing to do. So there will be some situations that it's going to be like a dilemma of people are saying they want this thing. I don't want to say that sometimes populist views can be wrong views. It could be the wrong steps to take at some point in time. And then it's now left to you as a leader to say, in this particular situation, do I want to look good in front of my people, or do I want to take what is their best decision from what the present situation is? Let me give an example. There are some security situations that you can never announce to the general public. Some security briefings that you cannot afford to let the general public know what is actually happening in this situation. And then the best step to take at that point in time might be without the context of what the situation is, general public might never want to understand that this is the step you are meant to take. For example, when I tend to I don't want to delineate too much from your wartime and your peacetime example, so that I don't stray from the point. But let me use this economic example in this situation. I was saying, for example, like 3 years ago, that was in 2023, Nigerian national budget was around 21 trillion naira. 21 trillion naira. And that same year, our projected revenue was 9 million naira, 9 trillion. That was about 40% of our proposed budget. And then our debt repayment, debt that we were meant to repay back in that particular year, was around the same 9 trillion naira. So it means that we're basically using 100% of our revenue to repay back debt. So it means that how do we now fund the remaining 11 trillion or 10 trillion of our budget? It means that we have to borrow loans to fund it. And you know what's funny? In that same year, we paid about 6 trillion in subsidy. So it means that subsidy is a good thing because it makes life easy for people. But the problem, when subsidy becomes a problem, is when I'm giving subsidy I cannot afford to give. For example, if I'm earning 100K per month and I say, Bolu, I like you, you're a great guy, you have been doing so much with Leaders Coven, let me give Leaders Coven 60K every month to fund their activities. Is that not a good thing? Of course, it's a very good thing to do, a very nice thing to do, for example. But I end up borrowing extra 30K from my friends in a month to just eat and to just go to work. So I did give away to people, but I'm now broke at the end of the day. So I've done a good thing, but I'm not smart enough to do that particular thing. So if I say from next month, I need to stop paying subsidy, I need to stop paying, people are going to be angry. Bolu is going to be angry that I already planned on your 40K to enjoy my month, to plan for Leaders Coven this month. So how do I survive? So Bolu gets angry. I look like a bad person, like a bad friend to Bolu, like a bad leader, for example. And then I just move on like that. What happens now is, if I now don't use the 40K that I'm saving from Bolu, so imagine that 40K I'm not saving from Bolu, and I said, next month, I'm not giving Bolu 40K again. And I start, just see me buy one big shoe for 40K, and I still end up borrowing 30K to eat in that same month. So it means that I deprive Bolu of spending money in a good direction on Leaders Coven. And the money I end up saving, I used to buy private jets, I used to buy yachts, I used to make everybody day right. No, just try to just oppose that situation. While I've made a rational decision in the first place, my usage of that particular money has been very terrible. That's what is happening in Nigeria. Just try to make it, our friend. That's what is happening in Nigerian government, for example. That's what is happening. So you can see how a leader can use a good decision to manipulate you. And at the end of the day, the way they are now using that resource is now in the worse than what it would have been better off for all of us. Okay, hope there's no dissent in this chat. I hope not. So, it would have been better off for all of us to have this 40K and have a proper Leaders Coven program where everybody takes vigil milk, everybody takes biscuit, everybody's happy. Then I'll not give you 40K and I'm not buying shoes with it, I'm buying private jets with it. Do you get where I'm coming from? People have a trust in that decision to say, subsidy, we cannot afford to pay subsidy again, we cannot afford to give Leaders Coven this money again. At the end of the day, you now betray their trust by now using the influence of your power that even if I use this 40K to buy private jet, nobody cares. Nobody can do anything to me. I can easily appoint my INEC commissioner and win the next election. So that's basically trying to use the power of your influence to make people understand that this is a rational decision. And now end up using the influence of your power to now use that money in the way that you like. So let me just stop here.
That's so methodical. I was just laughing. I mean, Nigeria itself is a case study of leadership. In fact, if you study the present Nigerian government, you will see how much depth of technical understanding they have about Nigerian people. Like, they just understand what Nigerian people understand. So these people, even though we want to do this, let's just promote this on the social media. And because they have this, we can get this done. I think in Nigeria, we are such a simple people. We don't try to press deep. We don't try to interrogate too much. And also just have they give us promises, a manifesto during election. This one looks like a good guy. In 4 years, it's after 4 years now. 4 years, how many times? 4 years now?
They don't even give manifesto again these days.
God, I beg on us. Okay, thank you for that, Damilare. I really like how you broke it down. So let's just double click a little bit about the power of influence. Mm-hmm. And I want to cite the story of NSAS. NSAS is such a tragic event that happened in 2020 October, and a lot of people died. Where some people still argue today that nobody died. Okay, well, when we get to heaven, we're going to take stock of how many people died during that day or not. But at least in my own analysis, and from what I saw from CNN, people were shot, right? And there were accounts that people died. Public accounts that people died. Now, NSAS looked like a promising movement because it gathered a lot of influence, social influence. In fact, it drew attention of celebrities. People were there. And at the end of it all, it doesn't translate into good governance, like a working government. Because the idea of EndSARS protest was, even though our major concern was the treatment of these SARS guys, we just want a working government. We just want a better government in this country. So I was just thinking to myself, EndSARS gathered a lot of people, yet we could not deliver on good governance, because obviously it was manipulated. But let's just throw back to like 1960, when we were fighting for independence. You know that it's not as if the British just woke up one day and said they want to give us independence. There were people and they were not actually the public. They're not everybody in Nigeria. They were just strategic people that stood up and said we want independence. People like Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, these guys, Nnamdi Azikiwe, with their influence, with their political power, and their just their economic power as well, they drew for independence, and we got independence. Like, they could translate an idea from just a vision to a reality in the nation. Why we as youth, as many as we are, we couldn't do that. So what's the missing link? What do you think the protest lacked? And what's your view about protest and how effective it is to drive in sustainable society changes?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. On protest, I'm going to be careful. As Danny has said, there's no DSS in the chat, so I can speak freely. So, thing about protest in itself is a democratic right. It's a democratic right. That has to be very clear. In a pure democracy, every citizen has the power, has the right to protest. And then, where does this power now come from? Or where does the influence of that power come from in the electoral power that I give in the beginning? Because if you as a leader, you can see about 1 million of those that voted for you protesting against your policy, against your government, or a particular scenario in the country or under your control, there's a problem. You should know there is a problem. So that's what protest first achieves visibility. It achieves visibility. It lets people know that, it lets government know that this is a problem. And those that appointed me in this position, those that are elected in this position, are announcing to me that this is a problem. That's what protest first achieves. So now the second thing that and that was what EndSARS achieved. Like, he achieved it on a very large scale. At least I was on the street a lot of times, and he achieved that. Like, there was a publicity. The government knew that they had a problem. They had a real problem. And people were concerned. But the problem is, any protests that the objectives are not very clear and the root causes of the problems are not clearly defined, it will not be successful. I would never say anyway that EndSARS was a successful protest. It was largely unsuccessful because police brutality has not stopped. Good governance has not even started. So, the protest started from end EndSARS to end police brutality to end bad governance. That was like the trend. But at the end of the day, the objective was not very clear because there were various actors that came into that protest for several goals, for several intentions that now diluted the purpose of that particular protest. So now, what I'm trying to say here is that for a protest in itself is a democratic right, is a way to announce your pains, your observations, things that you don't want to the government. But the problem is, if the objective is not clear, and if the protest lacks very clear leadership, there's going to be a problem. And that's another problem of EndSARS protest. There was lack of leadership. Because you cannot say this is a faceless protest, there's no leader, we are all demanding for good governance. If there's no leader, there's no negotiation. And you have to understand that, because something about leadership or something about government is that if I'm saying this protest is a way for me to show to you that I don't like what you are doing, that I don't like this thing that is happening, it means that, bring your demands to me. Let me show you why this is happening, and let's agree on what the next step should be going forward to solve this particular problem. But if all you keep doing is you keep announcing that this is a problem. This is a problem we want you to solve. And you're not coming to dialogue table to say that, okay, this is how we want you to solve it for us. And both sides are sitting and saying that let's dialogue on this, let's be diplomatic, and let's find a good solution to this going forward. Imagine in 2020, for example, we had come to an agreement with the government that any police officer that is caught of police brutality is going to be sentenced to a particular years of imprisonment, or we are going to have this judgment for that particular person, or we are going to have a rule that all police officers have to move with body cam, or that no police officer must be on the road without wearing their uniform with their name tags, or that there's a clear law that no police officer has a right to search any citizen's phone without with a warrant or with a search warrant, for example. So like there was no clear legal backing that was made to what EndSARS was all about. Okay, just went to Lekki on the 20th of October. They shot everyone up. People started shouting, "You killed us! You did not kill us! Let's start now having compensation for those family of those that they killed." That was how EndSARS ended. Compensation for the family of those that they killed, not an agreement on why we were protesting in the first place, not an agreement to solve the issue of police brutality, good governance, or even SARS itself, because there's even still SARS outside. Let me just stop here.
Damilare, thank you very much. To be sincere, like you were saying, we didn't actually solve any problem. In fact, police brutality still continues. I think the other day a guy was shot in Delta State. I mean, without court trial, just woke up and okay, Daniel, you want to say something? Just go ahead. Daniel, you're muted. You cannot speak.
Thank you for the opportunity just to chime in the OB. When it comes to governance, generally, as much as I like what Damilare is saying, it is not blue and black, right? If you do a little bit of studying around governance, there are a lot, like Damilare rightly said, there are a lot that does not really come to play. The equation is not as plain as we like it to be, right? So what happened in Lekki is, of course, war crime. Nobody was going to come outside and say it, because that can take you to prison for a very long time when another person gets in power and your sins are forgiven. But putting that aside, currently, just like Damilare has mentioned, people came out to say he does not care what the IG has to say. If they born you well in his literal term, like they born you well, when you see him with his gun, try and video him. He will shoot you, and then you know what comes with that. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a leadership problem, and then there's no law. There's no even if there is, it is not effective. So these are the problems, right? The leadership is a leadership problem, even though it's more people problem more than the leadership problem. But there's a problem with the leadership, and then of course we are the ones that reflect in our leaders. So as much as we want to complain about people that are currently there, it is just a reflection of us, the people who voted for, right? If our votes don't still count, even though they don't most of the time, they will not still be looking for it, because if it is over 200, if another person gets 199 and the other person gets 1, it will be difficult to leak, right? So overall, if you keep people poor, you can buy them for peanuts. That's the problem we need to solve. I could give scenarios, but I'll let other people chime in into this conversation. If you keep people poor, you can always give them peanuts and buy their votes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I have to write that down. If you keep people poor, you can buy their votes for peanuts. But I think I also have a view about why they still look for our votes, even though they have all the power. Okay, first, can you come in and share your own view too?
Okay, from my end, I think my question is to, oh my God, my question is, but remind me his name. I'm even forgetting. My God, what came over me this
night? Is it
Damilare
now, Daniel? Damilare?
My question is to Damilare. But my question is to him, basically. Let me be fast. And actually, reading through history, I discovered that for America to be free from British colonial rule, there were a series of events that happened. There were a lot of intricate processes, such as the stamp duty tax, the sugar tax, and a whole lot of tax that were imposed on Americans by British, which led to American Revolution and Declaration of Independence. That aside. Now, when I go back to France, before France got independent, before the French Revolution in 1789, there were a sequence of events. There were a lot of things that fueled the anger of the citizens or the masses and the peasants in France. Why? Louis XVI now was the condition. In fact, what France witnessed at that moment cannot be measured to what Nigerians are witnessing today in present day Nigeria. The hardship we are going through. I don't think what the French people saw that led to that revolution could equate to what we are facing today. Theirs was even simple. It was just high cost of living, just like food stuff were high, payment of rent, and taxations issue. But you could see that these guys march on the street out of anger and frustration. They led a revolution. And that changed the history of France, Europe, and to some extent, the revolution led to other revolutions across the world. And when Napoleon came to power, France became a better country. Napoleon laid the foundation for good leadership in France. Till today, they are enjoying it. Then back to America, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and the founding fathers. After they got independent from Britain, they laid a good foundation, America first, before any other country. The interest first. And we could see that till today, Donald Trump is acting based on those policies that were formed by American forefathers. They are founding fathers of America. But my problem is now, why is it that the Nigeria problem now is not even only Nigeria, but it's like an African problem? Because most countries in Africa, if not all, but our 80% of African countries, they are in abject poverty. Like poverty is eating up inflation, corruption, and you see the similarities. But why can't we come out and have a revolution that will bring about a change in the government? We say we are living in democracy, but are we really living in democracy? See what the government has been day by day. Oppression, threats, you can't even do things freely. So my problem is, how do we solve this issue now? Seeing that other people do it in Europe, in America, and other parts of the world. But why is it that this change cannot happen in Africa? Every day we keep clamoring for change. We keep, we keep educating ourselves. We keep going to church. In fact, I'm getting tired. Today I went to church. They were praying for Nigeria. I said I cannot pray for Nigeria because it really pissed me off that how long we keep praying for a nation that we don't see the change forthcoming. So how do we try to bring change in Nigeria? Because the same way that criticize this government, when we get there, we see that most of us that go there, we turn our back. The reason why we are criticizing now, some of us, not all, is because we are not partaking in the national cake. But look at Christopher Musa now. He has been appointed the Minister of Defense. Now he's supporting Tinubu. Now he said something recently that Tinubu has done well, but if giving Tinubu 3-4 years, he could do better. So he didn't even say anything pertaining to what Tinubu is doing. That means he's campaigning for Tinubu. Now he has not turned to a politician. Instead, you see, so how do we bring about this change we are clamoring for every day? That's my question.
Damilare, you are muted.
Okay, do you want me to respond to that now? Okay. So let me just respond to
To you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Kefas, yeah, thank you for a little bit of lesson on history and trying to set the background for the conversation. Because I like that you made reference to the French Revolution. And if I remember very clearly, as you have said, French Revolution was basically an economic revolution, right? It was because the economy was so capitalist centric that just the capitalists the elites were the ones that are making money, and the people that are actually working were very poor. And it was basically economic. They didn't even have insecurity problem. They did not have, like, bandits were not killing them, terrorists were not killing them, they were not kidnapping them. So it's just that people were broke, just like we are broke, and we still have security problem in Nigeria. And if I'm going to answer that particular question, as you have, thank God, I think you have even rightly dissected the problem. It is not a Nigerian problem alone, it's an African problem. That's the funny part. It's an African problem. And when I say it's an African problem, is, I was telling someone today, And it's a very, I don't want to say this because it's going to be insulting, but I'll still have to say it. Let me just say it. A lot of Nigerians have, I will not say, okay, let me say it the way I want to say it because that would be insulting. But a lot of Nigerians are not enlightened. They are not enlightened. It's one thing for me to feel pain, to understand problem. And it's one thing for me to be looking for a solution to my problem or to fight for the solution to my problem. So, Kabas was saying something about praying for Nigeria, not praying for Nigeria. That's it. Let me just even leave that one on the side. The thing about praying for Nigeria is, I think as a Christian, as a believer, that's like it's just something that you do. Something that you do. And the one reason why I would say that it's not important to pray for Nigeria, you know why I would say it? It's because I will not say pray for Nigeria, and I will say pray for Nigerians. Because the problem we have now is not Nigeria, it's even Nigerians. You pray for Nigerians to get conscious of the power that they have. Because that's the problem that we have in Nigeria today. Nigerians are not conscious. They are not in any way conscious. And then, there's something, Daniel was saying something around when you give people, when you make people poor, and then you give them peanuts, and then they vote for you. It's because those guys are still not conscious. And not in any way conscious, for example. Anywhere in the world, like I say, anywhere in the West that people are this poor, they will not take peanuts from you. They will take your head from you. They will take your head away from you. Anyway, people are conscious anywhere in the world. So the problem we have in Nigeria today is, number one, Nigerians are not conscious of the power that they have. So when I try to look at because let me give you an example. And revolution is a risk. If you don't have a good leader of revolution, you are going to end up empowering an autocratic bad leader. So imagine we are even in democracy now and we have bad leaders. So imagine you are in a military rule and you have a bad leader. Do you know how worse that will even be? Someone can give an excuse and say, oh, what we are going through now, is it not just like military rule also? You are deceiving yourself. You don't know what military rule is. You cannot even, we dare not talk to military. I was still dragging Tinubu today on Twitter now. If it was military rule, would I be dragging Tinubu on Twitter? I will just hold my peace. If I don't have enough people to support me, I will hold my peace. But the point I'm making here is that bad leadership is not a type of government problem. For example, look at what's happening in Rwanda. Rwanda leadership is autocratic. I don't know if you heard of what's Rwanda's president's name again? How have I forgotten?
Kagame.
Yeah, Kagame. Kagame is somebody who is transforming Rwanda. But Kagame is not doing it as a democratic leader. In fact, Kagame has imprisoned all the opposition that you have in that country. He has destroyed all their properties, all their wealth. He has destroyed the opposition. But the thing is, Kagame has been a good leader of Rwanda. And he has led a lot of transformation in Rwanda. So what I'm trying to just establish here is, now let me give an example of Uganda. I don't know if you know of Yoweri Museveni. He has spent 40 years as leader of Uganda. 40 years. In 1986, when Museveni became the president of Uganda, he came there as a revolutionary leader, saying that, oh, we no go kill you. We are taking you guys out. We are taking over power. We are transforming our country. And the same Museveni today has refused to drop power for over 40 years. I don't know if you have been seeing all those memes of Ghana around saying the economy is doing pew, like all those memes. That's Uganda. That's how terrible Uganda is today. I'm trying to establish that revolution does not translate to automatic good governance. If the problem is not solved from the part of are Nigerians conscious? Do Nigerians even know what good governance is? Do Nigerians know what good governance is? If you go to the US, to the UK today, for example, you pay your water bills, you pay your light bills, you pay everything that you need to pay. Nigerians don't even want to pay tax. And I get the point of saying that, oh, because government is bad, I don't want to give them more money. That is absolutely a valid excuse, but it is still an excuse. The point here is that Nigerians, a typical Nigerian, as Kevas has rightly said, just wants Nigeria to work for him. Does not want a Nigerian that works. When he works for you, I have connection. When he works against you, that's corruption. That's a typical Nigerian for you. So the problem here is, if you want to solve this problem, we need to first transform the mindset of Nigerians, and that's a long journey to make. I go to Twitter, I go on LinkedIn, I take TikTok. Sometimes I see the comment sections of TikTok, and I wonder, like, Nigerians are very, very lost from reality, and it's a diminishing return effect. When you have suffered so long, like you don't even know what good governance looks like again. And then we just keep pushing, and just keep pushing. So how to solve this problem is simple. We need a lot of civic groups that will be dedicated to enlightening Nigerians' consciousness. And that is how I think we can solve this problem realistically. Any other thing we do is, you can elect another leader tomorrow, and that person is going to be worse than the person that you have in power today. Why don't you just even wonder why from 1999 it looks as if today people say, oh, I want Jonathan back. I look at them and say, are you joking? Like, are you joking? When you were a kid, when Jonathan was president of Nigeria, Jonathan was a bad president by any standard. But the problem here is that Buhari was a worse president than Jonathan was. And Tinubu is what adjective do I ever use now? Like, that one even broke his skill. So the point here is, why doesn't even concern you that we've been having a bad president? Like, it looks as if Buhari was a good president. It looks as if Jonathan was a good president. Because Jonathan was a so good a president. Do you know what happened during Jonathan? Like, we had insecurity. We were budgeting money to buy security weapons. And Dasuki, who was the NSA then, was stealing the money. Madueke, who was the NNPC Minister of Petroleum at that point, was using our money to buy gold chains. Like, that was how bad that tenure was. Come to Buhari's tenure, that wasn't very terrible. Now move to this Emilokon tenure that we have now. So the problem, what I'm trying to say here is that it looks as if we've been having a bad trend of bad leaders, and it looks like the last leader was better than the one that we have. And because Nigerians we have a bad notion of good governance, and we need to treat that particular problem from the root cause, which is that Nigerians need to be sensitized on what good governance is. A lot of civic groups like Leaders Coven, like a lot of groups have to go around Nigeria to say people's mindset needs to be changed. People need to be conscious of the power that they have. Go out to the street to protest, take power and change the country. Contest for local government chairman in your local government, contest for House of Assembly in your state. That's where you start from. Trust me, there's a little level of difference you can make by just criticizing them online, making comment online. There's a very little thing you can do. But try to get into power, try to be a different leader, try to reform your mindset so that when you get there, you don't turn to the same thing that you're criticizing. In fact, let me even give another example so that I don't waste too much time. Adams Oshiomhole, who was former governor of Edo State, was former NLC chairman in Nigeria, National Labour Congress. Oshiomhole was Oshiomhole was a very critical advocate of the people. Like, when it comes to anything masses welfareism, was always shouting, NLC, let's go and protest. We protest against the government. When Oshiomhole became governor of Edo State, he owed salary. Let me just stop you.
Wow, Jesus, I don't think we have enough time to dissect this problem. We cannot have enough time. Before I speak up, Temi Loluwa, you have something to add? Just unmute and speak.
Okay, so what I want to talk about is the protests that you mentioned earlier when you were talking about how the protest did not go well, and how it was diluted, how it wasn't objective enough, there wasn't focus. But then when I flash back to the protest, in as much as what you said was right, Nigerians also saw it as a way for a change. The protest it started from NSAS, if I recall. But then other people still saw other things, that because it was a move, and it has been a long while people have had. I think other things, people started adding other things like bad governance, maybe removing APC. Like, I think it was a very long list, So, if as much as maybe they are saying they were not objective, they did not stick to like what they wanted and how they could come about it, like being diplomatic and having a roundtable discussion. At that state,
it was not at that state, like everybody was just hinging on that frustration. If you recall, in 2022, I think Sri Lanka, they also had this protest, and I saw it on CNN. And in the protest, it was due to economy and fuel, hiking fuel, a lot of things, just economy majorly. Now, the protest in NSAS, I remember that Lekki toll gate, the massacre and all of that, they also went to their own supposed White House. In fact, I can remember when I was watching it on CNN, they were inside the White House. I saw families sitting down where all these National Assembly people, they were taking pictures. There was nobody. Like the president had to fly to Singapore. Like it was really, really big. But what me I think was where I'm trying to compare and contrast the two protests, I noticed that in as much as the government were trying to like maybe attack in the way, maybe preventing the people from entering in Sri Lanka, there was still no riot, like there was no shooting, no killing, no massacre. If you are saying that for the Lekki toll gates, for the NSAS, if you are saying that we're not diplomatic enough and all, it's at that point, even if there will even be a protest now, you cannot just say, okay, yes, it's good we have leaders though, but you cannot just say at this point that Nigerians can mention how many issues that are going through security, economy, fuel hike, a lot of things. You cannot just say let's have like a round table and say, okay, this one, this is the solution. Everybody just wants a new government. Like, I don't understand whether you get what I'm saying. Like, we just want a crazy turnaround. This is like a revolution. That's what I mean. Not necessarily many people have even been coming up to speak, like all these people that you've been mentioning, right? And it has not been getting us anywhere. They counter one issue, then another, it or springs another issue. I hope you get what I'm saying. I did not really articulate it well, but I hope you get what I'm saying. So.
Yeah. I think what you're trying to say is that other countries have had protests and they didn't shoot them, right? And Nigeria will try to have protests. The government tried to clear the youth, clear them with guns. Now, I want to add something before you comment on that. I want to just add my own 5 cents to that. I mean, looking at Nigeria, you said our biggest problem is consciousness. Do you think Nigerians have a defeatist mindset? And I'm tracing this back to the colonial era because culture is built with persistency. So if somebody consistently inflicts you with pain, at some point you get to realize pain is part of normal life. And because of that, you can raise your children with that mindset. In fact, you see, when I was young, very young, my dad would say, see, this cow is from Germany. Those white guys, they are so intelligent. They are so smart. See how good this guy is. This guy is from Germany. The white guys are so smart. To a point where you begin to see a white guy like an angel, like semi-god. Like, how can they actually design a car? They are so smart. They are so intelligent. Like, what has happened to us? Can we trace it back to? Because the truth is that if we don't know the cause of a problem, the root of a problem, our approach to it may not be perfect. I mean, we may not be able to address it. Can we say the kind of defeatist mindset we have was passed down because of how we were treated during the colonial era? And because of that, we begin to see ourselves as little people, as people that can't really solve our own problems. We always want to depend on maybe a white guy, a Trump to send soldiers, and how do we that? What's the root cause of this problem? I know. Also, adding to what Temi was saying, that can we also add that to what causing the government to now shoot the citizen? Like, why should your people protest? And what you can think of is shooting them. Just add a few lines around that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bolu. I think I would like to even start from where you ended. But let me start from where Timothy started from. So Kemi is talking about what happened in Sri Lanka. I remember the protest in Sri Lanka. I think that the Aragalaya protest that happened in Sri Lanka. So yeah, the objective of that protest was very clear. The objective of that protest was the government should go out. We don't want the government again. And then when I say protest objective has to be very clear, and then sometimes you have to have a clear leadership, it's not because of anything. It's so that if our protest is okay, why I'm saying this is this. Why I would not even say the NSAS protest was a total failure is because it's like a revolution of consciousness, political consciousness in Nigeria. That's the truth. Much more youth became conscious of their country politics after 2020 protest. And that's it. That's the valid fact. But what I'm trying to say there was that the original intention of that protest was not achieved, which is ending police brutality. And it's simply because the systems to end police brutality was not in place. Now, let me go to Sri Lanka example and try to use that particular example. Sri Lanka example was basically, let this government go out. Let this government, this president's dynasty go out. And they went out. They now have they had a new, I think that's an NPP, I'm not sure of the person, and there was a coalition that he did at that point in time, and elected a new leadership in the country, and are now leading the country. But the point is, there's nothing that guarantees that even that new leader that they have elected is going to be a good leader. Which is why the root cause or root solution is that the citizen remains so enlightened that if this thing doesn't work, we can still do it again till it works. Which is why I'm making the fact very clear that if, for example, people in Sri Lanka tomorrow, they still end up having the same kind of situation that they still had, do you think they cannot go outside to protest and do the same thing again? Because they're already conscious, which is the real thing that people need to have. If the consciousness is already there, it means that no matter who your leader is, no matter who the president is, no matter what, even if all of us come and say it's Peter Obi we want, and Peter Obi gets there tomorrow and he fails as a leader, we can all go out and say we don't want Peter Obi out. Or we say tomorrow is maybe Atiku we want, and Atiku gets elected and he does rubbish again. All of us can go out and say Atiku out. Because you know the objective of your protest. The objective is that we want to vote good leadership. We want to have a good leader, not we want to elect Peter Obi. We are electing Peter Obi because we believe Peter Obi will be a good leader. And tomorrow, if he becomes a bad leader, we will not turn to the same thing that we are criticizing. We are going to vote him out. So the point I'm making is that the primary goal should be that people have heightened consciousness on the change that they want to achieve in the country. And if the process that they have done to make that happen does not happen, they can also go for that process again. That's the point I'm making about having the objective very clear, so that the objective is never lost. Because if after NSAS, they see police brutality, why have we not had another NSAS? If they still end up killing people every time, police still stop people randomly on the road every day, collect money from their hand. Just random youth. Every day it still happens. Why have we not had another NSAS protest? It's because people are not conscious enough of what they really want to achieve. If they are really conscious of what they want to achieve, people are going to be back on the street the next month when they are still brutalizing people. Because people are conscious enough that I can protest and demand for what I want till I get what I want. It's my country. It's my rights. And second thing, coming from your own perspective about Nigerians have a defeated mindset. Is that what you said?
Yes, defeatist mindset.
Okay, defeatist mindset, which is an outcome of colonial rule and everything. I would say that there are a lot of countries that had colonial rule that are doing very well today. At least, I think Portugal colonized Spain and some other countries in Europe. British colonized America, I think so. And then there are a lot of countries that were colonized and are working fine today. So I would say that, and you know what I would also like to make clear is that after colonialism, Nigeria had a period of good governance. I'm going to make that clear. There was a period after colonialism where I would say that we had a clear direction of where we were going.
For a short time.
For a short period of time. Right? It means that if people could do that after colonialism, it means that colonialism was not the problem. If immediately after colonialism, people that came after them for a short period of time got governance rights. Okay.
We have to analyze why those early leaders got governance. Many of them were killed in the first school.
And at the point, it also failed. It failed. Because there was a reason why military coup even came in the first place. It was because there was a lot of fights.
Especially in the Western region.
Yeah, which was why the coup had to come. And then, so like what I'm trying to say here is that when it comes to the core governance metrics, there was a point where we're moving in the right direction. That's the truth. Before things turned upside down. So I would say that even if we have a defeatist mindset, I think it's less of colonial leaders. I'm going to absolve them. I think it's more of our own leaders and then our own mindset as a society.
And where did you get that from?
From ourselves. Now,
how did you get your mindset?
Yeah, if you look at how Nigerian traditional or African traditional mindset is and leadership or societal structure is, we had a system of government that it was hard. It's even hard to criticize our leaders. There was let me even give an example. Even in a group or in a society, and people can hardly say somebody who is older than them, the person is wrong. And then if you have that kind of mentality, it's the reason why some organizations say that you don't have to call somebody by their ranks or by their rank name. Because the moment you have that happening, psychophancy will be happening. And that's what you have in Nigeria today. There's a lot of psychophancy. Because I want to benefit from the government. I know that the person is doing bad, but let me just go and do my infinity cap and go to Aso tomorrow. Yes, they will do that 8 infinity cap, just wait for it. You understand we're not saying that Psychophancy Pro Max. Psychophancy Pro Max. You know what I'm trying to say? So there's this level of our traditional system of leadership and system of that. It has been so hard to criticize. Like our system in Africa is very hard to hold our leaders accountable. Because we believe that, when somebody is older than you, somebody is higher than you in rank, the person can never be wrong. Something that really happens in Nigeria is hard to hold people that are above you accountable. People say, this person is bad. Don't do it. Don't touch the person. No, I don't want to allow. Like, that's just the way everybody is. Something is like you are passing across the road. Police is harassing the young guy. Police is disturbing. This thing is bad. Like, why? Like, this person guy has not done anything wrong. Don't touch it. Don't join. Just go your way. Like, there's this level of lack of consciousness about what your right is and how you demand for your rights. So I will not say that, yes, I can say it is defeatist, as I have said, but I will not say it is as a result of colonial rule. I will say it's as a result of our traditions and our cultures, which I feel, because it's not a Nigerian problem alone, it's an African problem. So I think it's an outpost of our tradition and culture, which I think that over the years, at least we have been trying to solve that for a while, and it's improving. It's improving. That's the truth of it. It's improving. And then I think over the next few years, we are going to have that. So I just hope that that level of consciousness about standing against people that do something that is wrong doesn't end in the moral side. It goes to the political side. Because when I notice that happening these days, Gen Z are more of, my mom said I should do this. I'm not answering my mom. I'm not submitting to my parents. I'm not submitting to this. That's where they are standing against things end. It doesn't come to standing against bad leadership. It doesn't come to standing against people that are doing things very badly. So I think, as you have said, the solution is basically increasing consciousness of the people. And I will concede that, yes, it's defeatist mindset. However, I think it's as a result of our traditions and cultures rather than colonial rule. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my political analyst. Amazing. So definitely, we have to adjust our culture and tradition to get it right. And like you rightly said, right is not subjective. Because in Africa, in traditional Africa, right is subjective. You can't tell your king that your king is wrong, even though it's blatantly clear. The king, okay, let's talk about this. How can you say that is the king has stepped on it? Let's take, for example, the king just walked past early in the morning and saw a beautiful girl. He doesn't even ask who is the father of this girl. Is she dating? Is she in a relationship? She just say the king has stepped on it. And they will take that girl inside as the next queen. Who does that? I mean, how is that right in principle? And that's the tradition that is passed down, because our superiors are always assumed to be right. So right is subjective. Right is not objective. There's no objective statement of right. So which is a problem, right? Which is a problem we have to fix. I mean, we have a lot of questions tonight that I'm not sure we can go through everything. But let's just try to design a roadmap, because everybody here are leaders and we're intentional leaders. And I believe in a couple of years to come, many of us will be in positions of power and influence where we can have the ability to make these changes happen. I want to ask you a question. For an ordinary person, for an ordinary citizen of Nigeria today, if you would design a roadmap to power and influence, what would that be? So take, for example, a person just finished school, university, and the person is projecting to be the president of Nigeria, or you want to be a voice in Nigeria. Not everybody is interested in politics, boss. There is still the power of influence, right? What's the roadmap? What would the roadmap be like? And I want to add a caveat. Can you actually be powerful or influential without money? So that's the caveat.
Okay, let me just try to break it into two parts. There's a part of can you be powerful without money? And there's a part of how will a young Nigerian, how does young Nigerian become a person of influence and become a voice in the country? Let me start with the person of the young person trying to be a voice of influence in the country. There are different ways to do this, but there are good ways and there are bad ways, right? There are good ways and there are bad ways. And then you can become a good voice and a bad voice. I think you have clarified that when we're talking about influence, right? You can become a voice of influence by being a sycophant. Like just be worshiping Tinubu, be shouting Tinubu on Twitter, you are posting, you go to Tinubu, you collect appointment, and you have before you know it, you are doing giveaway, you are doing this, you are doing that, you are doing empowerment, and you already have influence. But I don't think that is the kind of influence I'm talking about in this context, right? I'm talking about transformational influence. Like I'm going to make this kind of influence that can really transform people. Because as I've made it very clear, influence is basically making somebody else make a decision. If I'm influencing you to vote bad leaders, it means that, yes, I'm an influence. I'm a bad influence, right? So we are talking about transformational influence here. And I would say transformational influence is a slower process. There's no shortcut to it. For me, for example, I try to make more of my online profile on Twitter. I do more of Twitter basically because you can easily air opinions on Twitter. I do that more of that around trying to call out policies of government that I think they are bad without fear of anything. This policy is bad. This is why this policy is bad. This is what I think you should do. Right? You become a thought leader. That's how you can be. You can become a voice of transformational influence. And I have to also make this team very clear that you cannot give what you don't have. And then, as I have said earlier, most Nigerians have a defeatist mindset. And most Nigerians are not even enlightened. That's how, for me, I read a lot of books. And I think Bodu also read a lot of. You cannot be a good leader without reading books. Because if you are someone who grew up in Nigeria, and you think you want to transform Nigeria by trying to replicate what you observe, you are going to become what you have criticized. And before you know it, you have turned to an hypocrite. So you have to open your mind to something that is not restricted to what you are going through in your country. You cannot learn to change Nigeria from Nigeria. The change that Nigeria needs cannot come from inside Nigerian structure. You have to have an external level of understanding about things that are meant to work. For a random person that grew up in Nigeria, all you have known all your life is bad leadership. For a random Nigerian, all you have known is bad leadership. Sometimes some people feel the best thing that your constituency rep or your senator can do to them is which senator has given the highest level of empowerment. Which one is buying tailor machine for them, is giving them Okada, is giving them, that's their best lawmaker. So the point I'm making is that if you as a leader, you don't even fully understand what good leadership is all about, you cannot be that voice of influence that you want to be. Voice of transformational influence, just to be more specific. So it's procedural. You start building a level of you stand by your, and you have to stand by your principles. I have to make that also very clear. Because it is along the way, you look at most of the bad influence that we have in Nigeria today, the bad influence, the bad youths that are actually fronting for bad leadership in Nigeria. They started as good guys. That's the funny part. Started criticizing the government, started doing this and that. And along the way, money exchange and can't collect this appointment now. You say did this, that's supposed to be taking this every month. And before you know it, the person that has been calling out bad leadership is now the mouthpiece of bad leadership, trying to manipulate other youths to think bad leadership is good leadership. Try to use the power of their influence to make people think government is doing something right. So you have to stand by your principles. You have to expand your knowledge. You have to read very widely to understand what good leadership really is. And you have to call bad leadership out for what they are. When you see bad leadership, you have to call it out. This is bad leadership. And then you need to start multiplying yourself. When I'm multiplying yourself is building a community, like what Leaders Coven is, basically trying to let other people understand what good leadership really is. And start multiplying yourself into people. Because as I said, the Nigerians have a deficit of political consciousness and then good consciousness. I mean that somebody has to do the job of changing the mindset of others. And that is what bad leaders know how to do the most. They are very good at that, like making other people follow them. They are very good at it. Which is what even you, if you want to be a transformation leader, you need to also be very good at making people understand what good leadership is and standing their ground for good leadership. You know, I've been over the past few weeks in Nigeria. In 2023 election, I was a big supporter of Peter Obi for that election, as most youths were made to be. And over the years, I've seen a lot of supporters of Peter Obi go against the same thing that they have earlier called out in 2023. Like the same thing that I've said that these guys are bad leaders. For example, I'm standing my ground and saying that Atiku was the bad leader in 2023. You should not vote for him. But when it comes to Atiku aligning with Peter Obi, I'm saying that it's because of Nigeria now. Like there's no union of a bad person and a good person that can work out for good. So if I'm someone who is going to principle, my principle has to be very, very clear and I have to stand by it, no matter who is there. So the point I'm making here is basically, as somebody wants to be a transformational voice, you have to have your clear principles, you have to study widely, and you have to stand by those words. Because it is not easy. The test is going to come. You can be very broke and they are bringing money to you to say, sell your conscience, do this. They are giving 5K, they are giving peanuts to some poor people now. But they will not bring peanuts to you, they will bring good money to you. And if you don't have good principles, you will not stand your ground. Like, I mean good money. Because you are an influence. They feel if I can get you, I can buy you, I'll buy your followers. And that's how it's because you have a power of influence. So they just think, let me just buy this leader, I buy the followers. So you have to stand your ground. And the second thing I've said is about money. And this is complicated. Why? And yes, can you build influence? Can you be a voice without money? Money has a lot of functions, right? Money helps you to sort logistics, helps you sort a lot of things. However, when I say money, if you look at other countries, what they basically do is that for somebody to be contesting for a political position. If somebody is contesting for a post, for example, and they're not doing fundraising, I don't trust that person. Not just because fundraising is a showboating performative role, but politics is expensive. Building influence is expensive. And if somebody has a true positive mindset, I want to make a good change. Like I want to really transform the country. I want to really make. Okay, imagine I want to go for governor of Oyo State now, and I have to spend about 20 billion. I calculate the cost of me contesting is about 20 billion. Hey, do you think if I'm funding that money from my pockets, if you're supposed to fear me if I become governor now, I spend 20 billion of my money to become governor of the state, and I'm now manning billions of the state. You think that person will not take his money back? Is it for Christmas? Has he done all his work for his life to contest for you and now be a good governor? It's very rare to see someone like that. So if you really know that you want to be a real voice of transformational influence, you need to be accountable to people. Let me open a trust fund where we have an open accountability system. We fund this particular movement. We are doing account. You know what's even funny? There was this NSAS protest money was embezzled. That's how crazy Nigeria is. Like NSAS protest money was embezzled. People have not accounted for it till today. People didn't account for it. People that led that protest, that were the highlights of that protest, end up trapped. Most of them are outside the country today, living large on the Bitcoin that people paid. Like, I'm not even joking right now. This is public information. So I'm trying to just show you that if somebody is not, and that's even fundraising now. So like there are a lot of complications, but as I've said, it's hard to build influence without money. That's just the truth. Because building influence during politics is very expensive. That's why the truth is just that we just need to have people that really care about us. They have good mindsets, they are transformational, and they tend to like move with their principles. And then they have people that hold them accountable. That's just the truth. Because it's possible that somebody wants to turn rogue. It's just that is there an accountability system in place to hold this person accountable for what they are doing? Once that is in place, the person will be mindful of trying to do anyhow. For example, during the first tenure of Buhari didn't have a National Assembly that was controlling. It was not in control of the National Assembly. Saraki was the Senate President then. So there was a limit to anything I was doing. Saraki was basically checkmaking and it was political, yes. But at the end of the day, it worked out a little bit well for Nigeria. It was not so bad. But second tenure of Buhari, when Lawan was the president, it was very terrible because there was no accountability system. Those that are meant to like be holding the president accountable, which is National Assembly, they are sycophants of the president, just to use that particular word. So building politics is actually very expensive. You need money. Let me be straightforward. You need money. But the question is, you don't have to use stolen money, and then you don't have to use your own money. You can crowdfund if you have people that have similar mindsets, and then you are very accountable to how you use that money. And then you account for every single amount they're giving to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because of our time, I won't go for that. But I still have a lot of questions, a lot of argument. In fact, there are still things in my note that I want to drop back. Let's still argue it, let's still debate it. But because of the brevity of time, we'll be wrapping it up here. You see, one thing that I'll be going with tonight is that Nigerians need prayer. It's not just Nigeria again now. We Nigerians need prayer. We have to wake up to the consciousness of the need for a good government. Like, it has to be our desperation that this country cannot continue like this. And it's high time we woke up and we do something about it. It's not just enough to talk about it. It's not just enough to complain about it. It's not just enough to argue about it. It's high time we do something about it. And the onus is on our hands. We are the leaders of tomorrow. Like they used to say, we used to sing in primary school. We are the leaders of tomorrow. I believe it's our time to do what we can to make Nigeria a better place. In the spirit of that, Damilare, I want to appreciate you once again for joining us as a speaker on this call. That's been one of the most interesting Leaders Coven retreats for me. I don't know what it is not for everybody else. I would love to know your feedback on today's retreat. Just drop it in the chat box. React with your emoji. How was it for you? For me, it was very educative, very insightful, very intellectual. I mean, thanks to everybody that contributed. It was, very objective. It's obvious that we are talking about real things here. We are solving problems. We are trying to deep dive into what the issues are. And I really want to appreciate everyone that contributed, everyone on the call today. Thank you for coming. This is the 7th Leaders Coven Retreat. Next month is June. It's the June Leaders Coven Retreat. And I cannot wait again. I'll be having an amazing woman join us next month. And we're talking about goals. Me, for a person, I had a goal in January that I have not really moved a bit about. So let's talk about goal achievement, not goal setting. I think in January in December last year, we'll talk about goal setting. Now we'll talk about how to really drive those goals to achievement. And I can't wait to have that session. Thank you everyone once again. We'll be closing tonight. And I want to appreciate you for believing in Leaders Coven. believing in what we are doing and joining our call. And we hope to see you again next month. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for dropping your comment in the chat box. They are seen and acknowledged. Let's keep them coming. Let's keep them coming as we close. Thank you, everyone. Okay, good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Just be on the lookout for updates from the Leaders Coven community. Have a nice evening, everybody. Bye-bye. Au revoir.